Hello, everyone. Thank you all for attending our third webinar. I hope you hear me all well. If not, please write it in the chat so that I know when to stop. So first of all, welcome all and once again to this webinar, which is our third, and it is implemented under our E3D+VET project. If you're here, you probably know our project very well by now because you have been probably following us on our social media, project website, and so on. So we are very glad to have you here today, as this is going to be a very interesting webinar. As you know, this webinar is focusing on training and job opportunities in the European Union. The objective of this webinar is to somehow discuss what are the available trainings which correlates or are related to 3D printing technology or advanced manufacturing in Europe. And what are they the most suitable perhaps for VET students, and at the same time what are the market expectations from the side of the company, on the side of the businesses, and so on. So today we will try to discuss a little bit about several topics to give some, let's say, some answers, some practical answers, and we will have the point of view this time of two big 3D printing providers. We will have Stratasys, represented by Patrick Cadet. I'm not sure if I'm saying the names right, but and then we will have Flame 3D, represented by Peter Martelings. So the schedule of the webinar is very simple. We will have a presentation from both of our two speakers, our two providers. They will give us a short introduction of themselves at the very beginning, and then we will have a short presentation of our E3D+VET application, which is now available for download on mobile. But more information we will give you later. At the end, please write your questions in the chat box, so that we will be able to answer all of your questions at the very end of the webinar, where we will have a few minutes for questions. So Peter from Flame 3D, please.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you, Stefano, for the nice introduction. Maybe I can tell a little bit more about our organization, because we're not a 3D printing provider. We're actually a non-profit organization, networking platform. So we are active in Belgium and the Netherlands. We have about 120 members that are all active in additive manufacturing. So that means material suppliers, software developers, printing service companies, printer manufacturers, the whole 3D printing ecosystem, and not only companies, but as well research educations and government and so on. So we try to support and connect the 3D printing industry, mainly in Belgium and the Netherlands. Now, enough about me or about us. Maybe I'll start to explain why 3D printing is so important in my eyes. Well, the thing is, it's not actually a new technology. This is a patent that was filed in 1920. And it was, well, it talks about depositing layers to form various articles of an ornamental and useful nature. This is a technology nowadays we know as wire and arc additive manufacturing. So if 3D printing is not something new, why are we talking about it now, and why is there so much going on about it? Well, it's because this graph shows the global annual turnover in $1 billion for the whole 3D printing industry. So we can see that in 2018, the annual global turnover was $9 billion. Now, $9 billion, it seems a lot, but for me, it doesn't say much. I don't have $9 billion, but if you compare it to the price of some of these jet fighters, $9 billion is only 84 of those jet fighters. So actually, it's not that much. If you would compare the global annual turnover from additive manufacturing compared to the global manufacturing, it would only be like this graph, 0.05%. The little green dot in the middle of the screen is the annual turnover of additive manufacturing, and the blue one is from the complete manufacturing industry. So still, 3D printing is pretty small compared to the rest of the global manufacturing industry. Now, for once, all these sources in the right bottom corner, they agree that 3D printing will become bigger. So you can see the graph is still going upward. It's almost an exponential curve, and the prediction is that by 2021, the additive manufacturing industry will be worth over $20 billion. So that's quite an increase. So this little green dot from 2018, in 2020, it will be this size. In 2030, it should be this size, which is already a lot more. And some sources say, although I don't really believe them, that by the year 2040 to 2060, 40% of all manufacturing will be 3D printed. Now, I think it's a bit too early to say that and to make to predict something like that, but it shows that really the importance of additive manufacturing in the future will only be bigger. Now, this fast-paced growth brings with it a significant demand for new employees to join these expanding 3D printing organizations. And well, it's true that this development, it puts a significant strain on the talent market, as the pool of experienced additive manufacturing professionals is limited, and it is growing at a slower rate than the market demands. So for this reason, there is a lack of available qualified professionals in the additive manufacturing industry today. Every year, this lack of talent grows bigger because the industry continuously outgrows the talent market. And in 2018, Alexander Daniels, they are an HR organization, and they focus on additive manufacturing. They published their first AM talent market white paper, and it showed that for every job available, there were only 12 AM professionals globally who could potentially fill the job. And in 2019, they launched a new edition of the white paper, and their analysis shows that this gap between demand and supply has increased. So per one job, there are, as of 2019, only around 4 to 5 AM professionals available to fill that job. And they predict that this gap between supply and demand will continue to worsen for the next 3 to 5 years. Now, this number may seem high, but it really is not when you take into account that those 4 or 5 people, they could be based anywhere in the world and be from any discipline. So considering these factors, the actual relevant active talent pool per job is far smaller, maybe even as low as 1 or 2 relevant active candidates per role, which compared to other sectors is really, really low. As well, job seekers, they have a wide range of choices when it comes to their next challenge because AM is growing in all main sectors, and that is medical, automotive, aerospace, and general manufacturing. But even, let's say, a beverage company or a shoes brand, they can rely on the capabilities of a 3D printer in-house. So whatever the company is, one of its employees necessarily has to know something about it. And according to Sculpteo, they also have taken a survey among 1,300 professionals. And from all those professionals, only 5% gained their knowledge of 3D printing from formal education, and almost 60% learned on the job. So it's from these numbers, we can definitely say that the industry is suffering from a skills gap. We can see a lack of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so the STEM skills in the manufacturing market. And there is a demand for both technicians and engineers within the additive manufacturing industry. I can talk a little bit as well about the skills that are most in demand. Those are the ones we see a lot from our members. So as I said before, we have about 120 members, all active in the 3D printing ecosystem. And I can say that they all suffer from a lack of talent or a war for talent because there's this limited resource pool. So for suitably trained staff, I think we need more training programs and apprenticeships. And I think it's maybe important to note as well that additive manufacturing is not a singular discipline, but it encompasses a range of techniques, materials, and machine types. So engineers and technicians may not be trained in the design principles of machinery of AM, but even if they are, expertise in one approach or one printer type does not necessarily extend across the full range of processes. So I think that's why manufacturers and 3D printing companies as well are adapting their talent search to their own specific needs, and they pursue a novel, a hands-on approach to education and in-house training. But the most in-demand skills, I think the number one is design knowledge. Because to establish an efficient additive manufacturing process, engineers should understand how to design for AM. As 3D printing, it's a different way of manufacturing than traditional manufacturing. You deposit materials layer by layer. That's very different from the subtractive way of producing, where you remove to get the desired shape. But this enables the designers, so additive manufacturing enables designers to free themselves, and they can take a different mindset because it allows for a higher degree of customization and complex geometries. So this knowledge of design and this freedom and flexibility mean that designers can conceptually think much differently when working in 3D printing, offering more of an opportunity to design from a blank slate. This example is, I think everyone in the AM industry knows it by now. It's the bracket of an BMW i8 Roadster. It's a hinge. And you can see in the upper right corner, there's a picture that shows all the different iterations of the design. And when you see the one on the left side, so the black one or the dark gray one, it's much different from the one on the right. And I think it's very important that people who are designing parts, they take full advantage of the possibilities additive manufacturing have to offer. So that means generative design, topology optimization, and lattice structure, and this to leverage the benefits of the additive process. Another skill that's really high in demand is the knowledge of manufacturing in general and of AM technologies, because companies continue to demand a workforce that has an interdisciplinary profile and a broad knowledge of manufacturing. Because additive manufacturing is not just a single technology, it's like a bunch of different manufacturing technologies and processes. And having a broad knowledge of these manufacturing technologies enables professionals to better understand the relationship between the different processes, materials, and technologies. Of course, it's not always necessary to know all the different technologies in detail. As I said before, most often companies will carry out internal trainings on their specific use technology. But I feel that if you go into the industry with a prior general knowledge of additive manufacturing technologies and the materials that are being used, it will ensure a smooth transition into the industry. And a third one is the understanding of the benefits and the limitations of AM technology. So application knowledge is quite important as well. There are lots of applications, and I still think that the AM industry needs to help people understand the exact capabilities and limitations of the technology, the machines, the tools. So having application knowledge will enable professionals to support their customers in either using the technology or understanding its capabilities better, because I feel there's still a lack of knowledge amongst a lot of people. And I might go a bit faster because I see the time is ticking as well. There's also a need for commercial knowledge because for some jobs, it's needed to enable them to maximize the potential So understanding how a business works and understanding how to use AM technology can improve the business through profitability, productivity, market shares, KPIs, and so on. And then the fifth one is the knowledge and experience from vertical markets. So I feel that having experience in business verticals like the automotive sector or the aerospace or medical sector will enable the workforce to understand where in the manufacturing process AM will be useful. So having a deep knowledge about specific regulations, material applications, supply chain, industry trends in a certain vertical will allow a professional to understand how to take advantage of additive manufacturing in the manufacturing processes. And lastly, I will talk about job opportunities. I feel there are quite a lot of them because 3D printing is a specialized area of knowledge. And the applications, they are so different that anyone with knowledge of how they can be best adapted and utilized, they could find an excellent employment opportunity. And I've listed 10 of the most searched for positions available. It's also something, well, I don't really have a source for it, but it's something I've seen. I've been working at our organization for over 3 years now, and we see a lot of vacancies and job opportunities coming by, and members reaching out to us to help fill in their vacancies. And I've listed the 10 below that I see that are asked for the most. And the first one, of course, again, is designers. Again, it's what I said before, 3D designers, they're so important. They create a digital model, and I think it's really important that these designers have the ability to make designs that meet customer specifications, but they also have the capability to refine or debug or adjust or translate the design the customer wants into something that is really suited for AM and that gives the best output on 3D printers. So it's really important that somebody who wants to be a designer in additive manufacturing learns how to maximize the capabilities of 3D printing. Second one is technicians and service engineers. They're also really sought after by 3D printing companies and their clients to operate and maintain the many 3D printers in the industry. And they're also increasingly asked for because companies are searching for service professionals to assist their customers into taking full advantage of machines and to keep the machines functional. So this includes maintenance, repair, and advising customers on specific applications. A third job that I also see coming by a lot is a machine operator. Many companies that use industrial machines, they have a machine operator position. It's a very hands-on job. It requires great attention to detail. And in order to provide critical insight into the daily equipment, yes, these people are necessary because some of these things may not be well understood by the rest of the operations and the design teams. Fourth one is post-processing technicians, because AM, it's not only about designing or printing. A lot of the times, there's also post-processing skills needed to make good quality parts. So this includes support removal, grinding, sanding, painting and coating, polishing, and so on. And yes, finishing is really important when creating 3D printed production parts because they provide different challenges than conventionally machined parts. So the layered process of some machines may not be as accurate as some traditional production methods. So that's why you still need to employ manual or CNC machining in the finishing process to provide a high level of dimensional accuracy that is required for some production parts. Fifth one is software developers. They play an equally important role in the AM industry because, well, they can work on 3D printer software development, the integration of hardware and software, systems, automation, computational design. So, and also web developers. I see it like in the last year. I've also seen some vacancies for web developers as cloud-based 3D printing solutions are becoming increasingly common as well. Sixth one is sales, marketing, and account managers. that's because, well, 3D printing companies don't run on engineers and technical people alone. I think that's quite obvious. People are needed to keep the business running smoothly and on the right way. So the operations, administrative and commercial staff as well. But also, I see that companies are looking for technical sales profiles in order to improve the sales experience for customers. They want to provide a solutions-based process. So yeah, that's why there's also an increased demand for these sales professionals that have experience in hardware or software or materials. A seventh one is lawyers and legal professionals, because as you know, 3D printing relies on digital files and designs. So the 3D printing industry is wide open to legal issues and IP rights, but that's probably a domain of its own. So I will not go into that one. An eighth one is teachers and education. I especially feel that this is really important because the growth of 3D printing has opened up a lot of opportunities in many areas of education. So many schools are including 3D printing as a means of hands-on instruction. And the growing use of 3D printers also requires a growing use or a growing need of qualified instructors to provide training at many levels, not only in schools, but also things as in company or company crash courses. It's on really a lot of different levels. So I feel for educators, having an understanding of 3D modeling and 3D printing techniques will be invaluable. Also, the culture of Fab Labs is starting to gain support as an important aspect of education. So I feel that teachers with 3D modeling and fabrication experience, they have a vast range of opportunities open to them within educational programs. One issue that we as an organization have noticed is that some teachers' manuals are already available, but they're often supplied by hardware manufacturers. And we feel that a neutral and integrated course on the use of new technology in education is something that does not seem to exist in many countries. So it's something we also want to take up as a neutral and a non-profit organization on a European level. And then material scientists as well. So the ninth one, I think it's also a job that's becoming quite important. They are needed by companies and also companies that are supplying the AM sector. So they may work on research and development of the next generation materials. So professionals with knowledge of materials commonly used in 3D printing, such as thermoplastic polymers or resins or metal powders, they are also highly desirable. And then the final one is safety professionals as well, because understanding material properties and proper handling of material and operating equipment safely, that is a fundamental skill for anyone working in 3D printing. So that means like safe operation and maintenance of 3D printers, as well as the downstream of machines. So personal protective equipment, fire safety, proper waste management procedures, and so on. So that's also something we really see the need for. But well, I feel those are the 10 biggest job opportunities. If there's any questions, please ask them. Don't hesitate to contact us. We will gladly help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. This was, in my opinion, a very interesting presentation, and it was very clearly presented. And I think you gave us some very practical and useful information, especially concerning the job market. I'm pretty sure that most of our attendees are very satisfied. And perhaps I have a question for you myself at the end of the webinar. So let's go on and let's see Patrick.
All right, yeah, thank you very much. And I think Peter did a really good presentation. And especially was showing something I will not show because he was going in details what job titles the 3D printing market, or the additive manufacturing market as we call it, needs at the moment. And as he already had, I think he also when he started, can you do the next slide please? He had a definition of 3D printing, so I will just go over this quickly. We say in the end it's, you have a data and you want to create something out of this data. So if you press the next click, you'll see what it is still subtractive manufacturing. We change from subtractive manufacturing to additive manufacturing. As Peter also said, this field is more than 30 years old, and therefore there is a lot of knowledge in the field. Can you please next slide? Here you can see a part of a drone that shows you what is the advantage of 3D printing. In the end, instead of having a full heavy piece, you can print only what you really need to have the stiffness you need, to have the flexibility you need, and especially you can print parts that are lighter than with less weight that they used to be. And if we look at the next slide, this is something, so we as strategists have two types of printing, the fused deposition modeling, what I just showed, and then we have the polyjet, which is small triplets that go on top of each other and bring something like this in the end, where you have like this wooden part is really hard and the black part feels like leather, and it's just one piece. So next slide. Yeah, this is really, really overloaded, but I wanted to show you that there's as Peter also said, there's a lot of opportunities in 3D printing, and we have different materials that the 3D printing field is printing, like plastics, composites, materials, and we're going, of course, a lot of metal, and we have also wax. So on the next slide. And of course the market is big. We have a lot of manufacturers that are looking for good people. So you have the 3D manufacturers that are on the top level. You have the 3D printer manufacturers, you have a lot of them. You have the software vendors. That means we need, the market needs people with IT knowledge. You have material suppliers, and you have even post-processing companies, quality assurances, and researchers. I know the slide is really overpacked, and I wanted to show the audience that, okay, there's a lot of companies, it's a big field, and a lot of opportunities. So the next slide is a little bit smaller. Next slide, please. And it's just something the customer are telling us. The customer demand and the requirements are still growing. The customers are continuously asking for quicker delivery and shorter lead times. Next slide. So also we see 3D printing or additive manufacturing as part of the Industry 4.0 movement. So the Industry 4.0 movement will involve the technical integration of cyber-physical systems into manufacturing and logistics, and the use of Internet of Things and service in industrial processes. That means also the 3D printer as we have it at the moment that are used in an office, directly handled by people, will get chips and will be even more connected to the internet, so that people from abroad can all the time check what the machine is doing. So yeah, this is just one of the things we see where 3D printing, or we hope is also heading, means streamlining the supply chain. Instead of producing something in one part of the world and shipping it to the part where it is needed, it makes sense if the part can be 3D printed. You don't need a lot, but you need them quick. you can manufacturing where you need them. Means you can have a 3D printer in your office, in your company where you need it, and print the material or the piece that you want to use directly on site. So Peter also said, okay, this is where do the people come from who work in 3D printing? Of course, there is, at the moment, I've been talking to so many people trying to find out, okay, are there already universities offering something? Are there schools offering something? At the moment, all of my colleagues, they're used to do an V8 apprenticeship, or they studied engineering. And so we think, okay, the ideal skill set, of course, is you have to be open-minded, you have to be creative, you need multiple disciplinaries, you have to be interested in additive manufacturing technologies and materials. Also, he said, Peter, design for additive manufacturing, you need to have a design knowledge, and you need also always think about the economics. Does it make sense to print a part? So the ideal candidate has to have a lot of things. Okay, yeah, next slide is fine. And what maybe can we all do together to overcome the skill gap? We are also, of course, having machines on site. We're trying to do hands-on shops. We're trying to show people, okay, what they can do on the machines. And if there's a possibility, it would be good if, or it would be helpful if schools or universities can have innovation centers with the 3D printer where people can have projects and try to print. Partnerships with industry will definitely help to get the word out and help the younger people to get in touch with 3D printing. And as I said, hands-on workshop and integrate additive manufacturing into the existing curricula. So if you do the next slide, this is really everything that is at the moment available. There is an IHK training, there is a university in Spain, Technica, there is a digital Genial 3D web page that we built where it's possible to get a 3D printer package and all the information you need to get started and to learn. And also the Aachen Center for Additive Manufacturing has a really, really good professor who's really keen in showing people what they can do with 3D printing. And there's some really, really good books available. Next slide. So my conclusion. As also Peter thinks, there are great possibilities with additive manufacturing. The additive manufacturing market is an essential element of Industry 4.0. Education is key to enable the true potential, and AM is a growing market with great job opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for another very interesting presentation, I would say. As I said, if any of our attendees have any questions for any of our speakers, please do not hesitate to write them in the chat. As time is ticking, let's just cover the last point of our webinar today. Our partners from Spain, Cristalica, will give us a very short presentation of the E3D+VET app. Ramon, are you there?
Hello, Stefano, how are you? Hello, everyone. My name is Ramon Perez from Cristalica. We have been responsible to develop the platform for the E3D+VET project results. For this, we have created a platform that has two formats, web and mobile. The web platform has more extensive features than the mobile application, because the mobile application is intended to be used in the classroom by the teachers or the students. So we thought that the intention of the application should be more centered in the visualization of the models. So you can see in the platform we have 34 exercises in 4 languages, and each exercise has a profile with all the info regarding to how to use the exercise in the classroom and some technical information about the exercise itself. Also, the platform has a small 3D viewer where the user can move and see the details of each piece of the model. I will show you a small video of how the platform, the mobile application works. This is the main features that are exercises, models, and the forum of the platform. You can see here you have information and extra material like videos of YouTube in each exercise, how to use the model in the classroom, and this is the model viewer where you can make all the pinch out and you can see all the model in all the directions. So the application is already available on the Play Store. You can search the E3D+VET, or you can use the link that I will put in this presentation if later you want to check it. Also, the 3 links are the platform webpage is app.e3d+vet.eu, and the project webpage with all the partner output, the project outputs, and the news that has been during all the project are on e3d+vet.eu. So we hope you enjoy all the platform, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramon. Let's all download this app as soon as possible.
Yes, please.
So right now it's time for questions. We have already one question from Gregorio. I think he meant it for Peter. And the question is, do you think that 3D printing needs to be included specifically in formal education? Peter, if you can answer this question, perhaps?
Yes. Well, I think 3D printing definitely needs to be taken up in formal education. Maybe not as a separate course. It can be, but it shouldn't be, because it's not only about lessons on technology and manufacturing design, but you can also use the 3D printer to experiment in other lessons, or use the machine to create relevant didactic material, like some examples have been given in the presentation of Ramon. So I think it definitely is a useful tool in many different classes and schools.
Great. Thank you very much for your answer. We have another question. Do you think that we could use 3D printing also with youngsters, primary, lower secondary, upper secondary, general education? Are you aware of plug-and-play educational activities which could be used to implement meaningful learning pathways with 3D printing in a playful way with different age groups? I don't know if either Peter or Patrick would like to give some answer to this question.
Maybe I can say something about this, because there are so many different vendors in the field, and of course there are some vendors that have specialized on kids in schools. There's definitely something on the market available. I know that there's a company, Ultimaker, that made great 3D printers. Also, of course, we have a small 3D printers MakerBot, and this is what I presented earlier, this digital genial 3D.de. There is some information. So we put together a box that in one box you have a printer, you have a learning CD, and you have all information that a school would need to teach 3D printing. And of course there's also some other vendors who do smaller printers and can help with the plug-and-play printer machine.
Thank you very much for your answer. We have another question for Patrick. Have you ever thought about getting closer to the field of formal teaching? And if so, how do you plan to do it? Or have you already had practical experiences in the field of formal teaching?
No, it's kind of the answer. With this project initiative we started, we wanted to try to get into the educational field market, but I have to be honest, in this area it's just that our printers are for the B2B business market. They are, so in the end, most of the time they're a little bit pricey for a lot of schools or universities to implement it. I don't know if Peter maybe knows a little bit more about the market and give also his input.
As Patrick said before, there are a lot of plug and play options or packages available, different educational activities. As for me getting closer to the field of formal teaching, well, we have made a website. It's in Dutch, unfortunately, because it was aimed at the Belgian and Netherlands market. But it gives an overview of the possibilities with FDM 3D printing because it's the most accessible form. And also teaches, because I think that's really important, teaches or learns to the teachers what they can do with it, how they can use a 3D printer in different kind of ways to create relevant didactic material.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions, perhaps? Otherwise, maybe I have a very quick question for Peter. As you are pretty much working with a lot of companies and stakeholders, I was wondering, do you have perhaps any experience with any craft or artisans who are now interested in using 3D printing technology for their products, for their development processes and so on, if they have started or if they are just interested in starting? I don't know.
I have to say our organization is mainly also a B2B organization, so our members are the ones that have that are doing 3D printing as their core business, but we do get approached a lot by artisans or artists who want to use 3D printing, or they have heard of it and they want to make use of the possibilities. I have to say it's the number of people doing that it's quite rare. I feel like those kind of people they're still sticking with their craft a lot. Maybe it's because 3D printing is not known enough yet to them. So I think also with those kind of people, should also be some a way of educating them on the uses and of the benefits they can use with 3D printing.
Indeed, I agree on this last point. Thank you very much for the information. So we have no other questions so far. I guess we can close it as the time is over. I would like to thank, first of all, our two speakers, Patrick and Peter, for your input, your contribution. I think it was extremely helpful and extremely interesting, and it was a pleasure to have you on such occasion on this webinar. And of course, I thank everybody who attended. And well, this was our third and last webinar. We will not have any other within this project, but perhaps there will be more opportunities in the future. And let's hope so. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yes, thank you.